I know that you were not here for these minutes,
Yes.
and so technically you could abstain and it would still be a vote with my one vote, but perhaps you want to wait till,
Or Greg will be here later.
yeah, Greg will be here later, so we'll take a
Prefer
look
to
at
hold
that.
those.
Okay, and the executive session
Same thing.
is, that's the same thing,
Yep.
and that will not be for release when we do approve those.
Yep.
Okay, so we have here a person who is been in touch with you, I guess, Linda Eiben, and shall I call you doctor?
I'm retired, but yes, you're always a veterinarian. It's,
Yeah, so I always say
Nobody
Dr.
agrees.
Dr. Eiben is in here to talk a little bit about street lighting. And so, without further ado,
okay, for those of you who don't know, I live at 480 Hawesville Road in a house that has no internet, no cable, and no reliable cell phone. So my question to the board is, why did you prioritize a street light right over where normally Colleen has her beehives?
okay, now, was there a street light there?
No.
So this is a brand-new,
Brand new
Okay.
street light, the street light that was there, I was paying for.
yeah, I have one of those in front of my house I
Right.
pay for.
And when they came to change the bulb 10 years ago, I asked them to take it down.
Okay,
They took it down, they took the cable that went to that pole.
makes sense, okay?
They didn't want the pole, so I cut the pole and it's now in my garden as a retaining because I'm on a slope.
Okay.
So, no, where the street light is, there has never been a street light there.
Okay, well, what pole did you cut, you had a street light on a pole, you cut the pole, got rid of the, okay, the fixture, and then you cut the pole down.
Correct.
Okay, and.
So now a new street light was installed on a different pole?
On a pole before that pole.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, as you come down Hawes Hill,
yeah,
I think it's pole 34 where the street light is now,
okay.
which is right next to the house.
Your house?
Correct,
Okay,
right where Colleen normally has her bees.
okay,
The street light that was in existence was beyond that.
Right,
north of
right, right.
that, At the bottom of my driveway.
right. So, your question is why, my guess is because when they did the inventory of poles in the town, which they do, but they didn't have us approve because they probably, in their records, saw that there was a pole that had a light one time. So they just installed a new fixture. Most people would have been dancing in the street.
No, but if Colleen's bees had been there, Maureen, they would have swarmed.
Yeah.
Nobody asked me, and this was a street light that I was paying for.
In the old days, yeah.
Correct.
See, I pay for a street light, but it is on town property.
This one wasn't, it was on my driveway.
Okay, so it wasn't close enough to the road where it would be considered town property?
It would have been on the other side of the stone wall.
Okay.
If the stone wall had continued.
Okay, well, at any rate, so your reason for being here is to ask us to do something,
Yes, to
What?
get rid of it, to turn it off.
to turn off that street light. Now, you're the last house up there before actually the road continues to go to Old Peter Sam Road, but I'm guessing it's
Correct.
not heavily used.
Correct.
Okay, so did they turn off the street light?
They haven't yet. I requested when I had spoken to Dr. Eiben a couple of months ago, I reached out to our National Grid rep, as I've done, for other members in the community who have called
This is
about
so
streetlights.
odd, because quite frankly, you're the only person I've ever seen, heard about, comes in and says, take the light down.
Oh, it's horrible.
Well, it's not horrible, I mean, it's just,
is.
it's just that in your.
I gave my telescope to Molly, because I
Uh-huh,
can't use it. And again, as I said, Colleen bees would have swarmed if it was up in the summer.
mhm.
I mean, yeah.
So,
Is
yeah.
this part of the street light replacement that
Yes.
National Grid's supposed to be
Yes,
doing?
and they're in the midst of doing it, you probably see the different lights.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so this is part of that process.
Yeah.
So part of that process is that they have an inventory, as Maureen mentioned, of, probably a couple hundred lights, streetlights around town. And so part of our agreement with them is that they would pay for the upgrade of the lights. There's no cost to us other than a
Yeah.
reduced, obviously they use less electricity than
Right.
the halogens, so there is a reduced cost to us. And this was just one of the poles that they had identified that had previously had a light. And, you know, the line workers that went out there were just told to install a new fixture.
Yeah, so it's-
I reached out to our National Grid rep months ago after I initially spoke with Dr. Eiben, asked them to turn it off, and
he said we needed to vote.
no, apparently they just didn't, even though.
Because I know we have to
our
vote
rep-
to put one out. I mean, to put
like
one in
maybe
a place.
A new one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the process that works is that I reach out to our National Grid rep, our National Grid rep follows whatever their process is to file, you know, a work order to turn off the light. And when I was made aware that this had not been done yet a couple of weeks ago, after I got back from vacation, I reached out to her again, and I followed up a second time just to make sure that I get a date on when that light will be turned off.
Okay, so it's going to be turned off.
Good, good.
Okay.
That
That's
solved my
easy.
whole problem.
All right.
Okay.
Especially because Colleen's bees were home, so they didn't swarm.
Yeah, that nest would have, or that hive would have been gone.
Well, she normally has 4 there.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
she would not be a happy camper.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you.
Well, hopefully you leave being a happy camper and have a very nice holiday.
Yeah, you too.
Okay. And you know what? We might even try to get cable up there. How's that?
Pardon?
I said, we might even try to get cable up there,
Oh,
okay?
well, I tell
So
you,
you-
all of us would greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, well, make sure you, if you see the survey that might be in the Barre Gazette or on the forum, please, I know you can't see the forum unless you sit down.
She submitted one.
Oh, you submitted
Yeah,
one,
Well,
good,
when I came down to discuss this before,
good.
she had the form, so I
Good.
sat in the car.
Because
and filled it out.
we're working on that and hope that we're gonna be able to take care of the 90 some odd properties that still are without
Oh, it's
the
90?
20th century,
Wow.
yeah. Yeah, there's places that you, if I said to you, oh, they don't have any either, and there's 17 houses in a row, they don't have any either because there weren't 17 houses in a row when we first had cable.
Right,
So,
because I
there-
remember when it was installed, at that time, they said there were 13 of us
yeah,
that would never get it.
yeah. Well, there are 90 of you now, so it's not that you will never get it, it's that we have to do some arm twisting to make it
Right.
happen.
But at that time, I mean, the only internet available was dial-up.
Oh, yeah, I
which
know.
wasn't, that's still the only thing that's available.
And that's, you may
I
as
don't
well
even
save
think
your money.
DSL.
And if you try those, you know, satellites, you may as well save your money on those
Right.
too. You can't downstream, you download, you can't stream on it, you can't do anything
Well, the
but.
library is my savior.
Yeah, I know, I see your car there once in a while. Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. So you'll take care of just making sure, nagging at them again. And would you make sure that if there are people who pay for lights and are willing to pay an additional amount to get whatever, do they address that?
Yeah.
Because they were changing a bulb and Larry asked, you know, the people who were changing the bulb, which,
Yeah.
hey, can we have this upgraded to whatever, even if it costs us money? No, can't do that. So I'm guessing they didn't know. It doesn't matter to me. I'll keep the halogen. It's just wasting a lot of electricity to do the halogen.
Yeah, and it looks just out of place now, because you have a whole nice.
I know, but I
street
have
of
to,
little
I have to say,
LEDs.
I like the hue of the halogen, but who cares what I like? Moving on. Okay, that takes care of that in public
There's
comment.
some improved safety with
Yeah,
different
yeah.
colored lights.
Yeah, that was when I was talking with our National Grid rep, that's what he said, was that with the bright white lights, now, like if you know, say if there's a hit and run
Yeah.
or something, you're able to better tell if it's a dark green car, if
Yeah.
it's a blue car, you know, those type
Well,
of.
and you'll notice also that we have one of those LED special fixtures now in front of the library in the old-fashioned lantern, which everyone criticizes because the halogens get so hot in there that they
Yeah.
just keep on burning out. So that's, but you can see it's very white, and
Mm-hmm.
people complain about it. But it is lit, and so we're happy about that. We'll move on through the, thanks, Selectmen report. We'll move on, unless, because you're going to do something later on tax exempt, so we'll leave you down in old
Yeah,
business.
we'll leave that at old business. That's kind of building off
Okay.
of
The
the
only,
topic Greg brought
yeah,
up.
the only thing I have for Selectmen's reports are that I would just wanted to send our compliments and thanks to the Christmas and Barre Committee, who put a ton of work into not only beautifying our common, but providing opportunities for the children in the community that they would not have had, hadn't you guys done your thing. And I think that's extraordinary, because I think it would have been easy not to have it, and most people wouldn't have complained. But Maybe the people with children would have, but at any rate, and, you know, what you did also in the town hall as far as having vendors available, and then the churches, you know, did their thing, and so it was a very busy, not good weather, but very busy time in the town, and as much as I, you know, make fun of it and stuff, you know, when I was hiding in my rain gear and umbrella, you know, Greg was in great spirits and a great comrade in arms as we did our walk, and, you know, the bands and those people got so wet. I give them real credit. So you know, congratulations to you and thanks on behalf of the community. Anything from you, John?
No, I don't have anything.
There's something else later in the agenda, so we'll take on that. Okay, Town Administrator's report?
Thank you. I just want to bounce off what you were saying about Christmas in Barre. The Christmas in Barre volunteer group, they held their annual Christmas event for the town on Saturday. And even though there was a lot of rain and a lot of wind, they had an estimate of 400 people come to visit Santa at the Woods Memorial Library. The library has a little counter as people walk through the door, so that's how we were able to draw an estimate on just the you know, number of people who just came in to
Wow.
see Santa alone.
400?
Never mind, you know, all of the people who may have gone to the craft fair. I'm sure there was well over 400 people who kind of took advantage of the different activities in the center of town on Saturday. And I think it speaks to the commitment and the hard work of the Christmas in Barre folks, because they were able to, in a very short period of time, adjust their program and the activities that they hosted to kind of mitigate the impact of the rain and the high winds that we had over the weekend without, you know, just canceling it and allowing everybody to have that kind of Christmas and holiday spirit. So we can't thank those folks enough for what they have done for the community. I also wanted to give an update on the damage at Bryce Park. The climbing structure that is there has some sustained damage. So last week I met with representatives from Rockworks who originally donated that climbing feature probably 15 years ago.
At least.
And they said that a repair of the structure, it might be possible, but it also will be pretty challenging because they don't really work with the type of materials that they use to make that structure anymore. And we would also have to have the structure towed all the way out to Rockworks, which isn't that far. It's somewhere in Barre, but it's a heavy structure, and so one of our options is a repair, which they said roughly. I'm still waiting on an estimate from them, but they said roughly it might be around $5,000 to fix. But replacing the structure altogether with a similar one would likely run into the tens of thousands of dollars, which will probably not be the best use of our funds. So I talked to them about a third option, which would be to replace it entirely with a different type of equipment that they have kind of become more accustomed to creating. That would be less expensive for them to produce. So I'm working with them on a couple of different options to either fix and repair it or to just replace it with something else entirely.
Has it been taped around or signage to say stay off? Or?
There is some police tape down there, but I don't believe there's any other signage
We're
down
talking
there.
about the rock thing down at Bryce Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, it's an attractive nuisance, let's face
At
it.
this point, yep.
And leaving it, even with just police tape around it, probably isn't sufficient. We can just pray for early snow, but that's maybe not the best approach either. So, you know, if it's, I don't know how heavy it is, whether a DPW people can move it or not, whether Roxwork would move it onto their own property.
So they would not move it onto their own property.
Okay.
We would have to get it towed to their workshop.
So what do? Put it on a trailer or something and bring it up that way?
Yeah.
It's probably not worth getting fixed for several, $5,000 or $6,000.
I don't think it would be
No.
I mean, you
because
can buy
it's
some
made
other
out of,
nice,
like-
nice equipment for
Right,
$5,000.
because it's made out of like fiberglass and plywood.
And they don't do that anymore.
That's not kind of their forte anymore, so, and fixing it with plywood and, you know, fiberglass might, for longevity purposes, like, you know, $5,000 isn't gonna get you too many years out of more fiber.
Probably get more use out of a basic swing set now.
Yeah, you're
Right.
probably right.
You know, just
Yeah.
put some swings in and have that removed.
Well, I'm sure we can get, in the spring, I don't think we should hustle on it now, but we can certainly,
We can get it removed easy enough, I would think, and
Yeah.
DPW should be able to
yeah, but what are we gonna do with it once we remove it?
throw it away.
Put it.
You think they'd take it down the landfill?
You break it up.
Yeah, they would
It's a
definitely
me-
have to break it up.
It's a metal frame with plywood and then whatever they've done with the
Fiberglass,
fiberglass
yeah.
and whatever the rock texturing is, if that's cementatious
So,
of some
so,
kind. I don't know.
would you talk to Jason, or why don't I talk to Jason and see if he can do that before the snow flies, just to get it out of there?
Okay,
I assume it's anchored with, you know,
I would think so,
with
too.
a few bolts. You probably just cut the bolts and
Yeah.
they'd probably just grab it with
I'll have
a-
Jason look at it,
grab it with a machine and throw it in a dump truck and take it down there and break it up, or
yeah.
yeah, I think.
or maybe even unbolt it.
Yeah, I don't think that repairing it is gonna be the best option for us, but I do think it would be good to at least look into some other types of equipment that they produce. You know, cause if we wanna think about, you know, continuing to provide some good playground equipment in the community, that's just a different type of.
Well, the kids like to climb on it, but it's one rock, so basically they just climb and sit on top. So
Yeah.
it's, you know,
And it's dangerous.
there's probably some liability to the town, right, because you have any kind of climbing structure they can fall off of, as opposed to just a straight swing set. You know, especially swings for younger kids with the, you know, a lot of people like to take their little kids down there, so.
Yeah.
Maybe the basket type swings, you know, with a gate for the little
Yeah.
kids would be even more appropriate. It's a younger park, it's not really an older park.
Right.
Older kids can get to Ruggles and use the swing set up there.
Yeah, I think we could potentially look at doing, you know, with ARPA funds in the spring, doing maybe a more expansive playground project where we could
But
do.
what I think we have to be concerned about, obviously, is I know that there's a deed qualification in there that says it's supposed to be some sort of a park.
It
Right.
just has to be.
Yeah.
It has to be a
and-
park, right.
And so we have to be conscious of the fact that if we're gonna do any kind of upgrade or maintenance down there, I mean, that basketball court's in terrible shape.
Right.
So we probably should contemplate what could that little place look like
Yeah,
if we wanted to go forward with any kind of upgrade.
yeah, definitely.
Because, I mean, it's really, you know, it's really needs attention.
Yes.
And I
agree.
worry, what do you think, Greg and John, about if this ends up being a place for the fire department? Is having a park there, like, still gonna be okay?
Sure.
You think we'll get enough land and room?
The Rice Park is be separate from the fire department. We can't build the
Well,
department on the
no,
Rice
well,
Park
I
land.
understand that, but
There's-
Parking
just,
could be a little more challenging.
There's never that many people there at a time, you know, there's
well, there isn't
parking-
now because there's nothing to do.
Right, if something more substantial was built, particularly if we did have a playground that checked off that ADA compliant box,
Yeah,
there might be, you know, more difficulty getting, you know, parking spaces where someone could get there.
yeah.
We
in
can
an
open up
accessible
more
manner,
parking
but-
too. There's still a large grass area along the road. We could certainly come in, you know,
Yeah, off the
15
road that
feet.
way.
In front of, across the street from Joe Rogowski's house there.
Yeah,
There is like 2 or 3 spaces where you can just pull right in.
yeah.
You can continue that right up the side of the road. And across from my house, it's wide enough for 2
Well, I think we
and
just
2 or 3
should
deep. so-
contemplate, you know, not just fixing that one piece of,
Right,
but if we're
Right,
gonna
but doing
make
a
a
full-
park there, let's do a park there.
right.
Mhm.
Yes, I
And I just want to make sure that from your perspective, you're very familiar with the property, I know you see it all the time, that if we end up with the fire department's new building there,
Well, then we have parking right across the street from the park of the old fire
yeah, we would, yeah.
department. So there's places that people
Do you have any
go.
concerns with, you know, washing equipment with the runoff headed towards there? If
If
the
they
fire
wash equipment, they're
department-
gonna have to have a proper grease trap.
Grease
for it.
trap and all
Okay.
kinds of,
There'd be a wash station for that
Yeah.
at the new firehouse. I'm sure that's part of it.
yeah.
Okay,
And I'm sure appropriate fencing would be there too. So, okay,
all right.
thank you all for that. And what else you got?
Awesome. And then the last update I have for today is regarding the cable access project. So
Up on Spring Hill.
Yep, and a little update from Charter. So DG Matrix, who is managing our Spring Hill Road cable access project, We finally received our National Grid assessment, and we're able to pay that. So this means that all of the make-ready expense is done, and we can move into the kind of construction phase where they start running the lines. They have the correct permits and everything. So now they can start running the lines and getting service out to folks on Spring Hill Road. So originally, the make-ready expense was estimated to be around $70,000, and it came in, after all things said and done, to $31,400, and that includes the 2 new poles that will need to be installed because of a gap in the pole line out there. So right now, we're under budget, which is something that you don't hear too often nowadays. But we're making some progress there, and I don't have a complete timeline on when everything is going to be connected out there. But once I have that information, I will let you guys know. And for charter, I am, I'm still communicating with the Director of Government Affairs out there. I kind of gave him the background of the last time that we had conversations about building out the rest of the town, and they agreed to do another survey of the town to confirm that all of the properties that are eligible to receive, or that need basically internet and cable access out there, that area is all surveyed, and then they will come back to us.
Is the survey that has been put out by Joshua on behalf of the, that's separate?
So those are, so this survey that Charter is doing isn't like a survey that you fill out. This is the type of survey where they send people out and they do kind of a physical survey, like how long, how many houses are connected, how long of
Is this
the
is this
distance.
to some cost to the town?
No.
Okay. I would just I've been in contact with Joshua Smith because I said, he's supposedly managing the cable contract and so forth within the community. And he recommended strongly that we, once again, sort of have a conversation with William Solomon, who was the attorney that worked with us on not only the contract negotiations, but had great influence in getting as much as we've gotten. And that he would be essential to us having at least a conversation with, to say, what are the best next steps to move, the process along?
Okay.
Because from what I understand, that's the great game. We're gonna do a survey. And then 6 months, 8 months, a year later, we're still saying, well, they're surveying it. And I would say the Indians are getting restless. Those who have yet to had any access to cable for, whatever, are saying, well, we keep filling out these surveys, but nothing ever happens. And then when, I just want somehow us to pressure Charter into, or Spectrum, into some action of some sort.
Yes.
I mean, even if they, showed up at our meeting and said, this is what we're doing, this is how long it's going to take us to do this survey. At the end of this, we will be able to give you a price, discuss this with the community, whatever. Because right now, they just keep on saying to you, oh yeah, we're getting on it. Oh yeah, we're getting on it, but nothing is, happening. And it's frustrating for me, but I can't even imagine how frustrating it is for people who keep asking, where's the cable?
Right. I know I had seen that you had reached out
Yeah.
through email. Did you ever hear back from him?
Oh, yes,
Oh, you
he's
did?
ready and
Okay.
available to meet with us. And so Joshua and the attorney, William Solomon, are trying to do a mutually convenient phone time, just to
okay.
say. But I didn't want to do that before having opportunities to talk with the board about, is this a good next step? Or should we just wait for the survey, or whatever? Because while I could be the rogue selectman easily, I have those attributes, I just wanted to make sure that we were going to spend some money on an attorney, that we would all be, amenable to that and understand why.
It's wise at this point, I think, because we've been asking, and like I said, they came into this meeting once and said like the 180,000 ballpark to finish it all out, and we're gonna have only some portion of that to pay. Then they jumped almost to $500,000 when they heard this CARES Act money we can spend, without any justification for the huge, almost triple price increase. I mean,
Well,
we
well,
need to get some representation
yeah,
of
we-
someone who
we-
can.
Some expertise in it.
yeah, so I would look for a motion to authorize the contact of Mr. William Solomon, attorney, who has worked with the community in previous years with getting charter to provide better service in the community.
What are you looking at for a spending cap in the attorney?
You know, it's very difficult because I haven't talked with him. Joshua has recommended him and given me some ideas, but I haven't gotten any specific,
Yeah, we would have to look at a contract with him to see, because not only are we looking at this issue with the cable access, but we're also looking at, in 2024, our cable contract expires with Charter. So, so we're kind of looking at two different projects, which are very similar in nature, that we would be working with him on, so, but.
well, could we do something as easily as to saying, at this point, not to exceed $5,000? And I doubt it's even going to be close to that, but if you need him when you're talking with this gentleman, or he could end up representing us with these conversations.
Right, and he might also have like depending on if
He must have a
does.
schedule for what he's.
Right, if he
doing
does this
for
on,
things.
for different communities, like he might be able to say, like, I will, negotiate your contract and also include
Yeah.
this cable project for $10,000,
Yeah.
for $20,000, like,
Well, I think at least if we can have a not to exceed $5,000, that we would not commit any more than that at this point in the project. I mean, unless you think that's too much.
I mean, I also would consider, should we look at the attorneys that we have on call for the town, if they have any services along this line as well?
They don't.
They don't? Okay.
Well, I'd be interested, before we approve it, you would find out what the billing rate is. I certainly don't want to tell.
Yeah,
I can
think
get-
the
Tell an
motion
attorney,
was-
hey,
the
we're gonna
motion would
spend
just
up to
be
$5,000, because then he's going, okay, well, here's your bill for $5,000.
Well, no,
I'll talk to
what
him
I can
for
do
you.
is definitely determine his
You know.
billing rate.
right, and we can just get the contract from him
Yeah.
to say, what his, but like I said, he might do an hourly rate, or he might say, I do this contract for.
Well, see, since this is not a
Excellent.
contract, and it's really looking
It's
into.
discovery.
Discovery, it's
Right.
hard for him to guess, and he's going to give us, like you say, a billing rate would be my guess.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, I don't have a problem with 5,000 at this point, to try to get something done. I mean, we've had, money approved from the town, which we've, spent towards the matrix side of it, but we haven't gotten anywhere with anything else.
I think that I can, at our next meeting, have a number for you and so forth, so.
And I believe that there's, the funding for this attorney comes out of the PEG account anyways. I'm not 100% sure on that, but the PEG account is set up basically by the people who pay for cable services in town. On every cable bill that you get, there's an additional fee that you pay that goes into this account. So I'm assuming that's where the.
Right, we fund money into the PEG access
Yeah.
account every year.
Mm-hmm.
So
But we're gonna have to refund whatever we put in, so if
Yeah.
we spend it out of the ARPA now towards this, it just
Yeah.
saves that step of
Yeah.
reimbursing the PEG access.
So at any rate, if we can have a motion similar to what I've suggested with the not to exceed $5,000, I will get right on this with Joshua and keep you informed.
Sure. We'll make the motion to reach out to this attorney to get a rate and some options at a cost not to exceed $5,000.
Do we want to authorize her to have them start at the same time in this motion?
To not exceed 5,000, yeah.
Okay, I'd second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. Those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay. We can go back to the minutes. Greg, you and I were there, and John wasn't, so we held those for you. We have an executive session, not for release,
Mhm.
and then we have the general information from the November 21st.
So you've done,
We haven't done anything with
oh,
them.
this is our meeting packet. Okay, I'm looking at
Yeah.
December 5th. Wait a minute, that's awful recent.
Very,
Yeah.
very recent.
I'd make a motion, we approve the open meeting minutes of November 21st.
I will second that motion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
And we have one abstention. We
And I'll
have the
make a
executive
motion, we
session.
approve, but not for release, the executive session minutes of November 21st.
I would second that motion. Those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Abstain.
And we have one abstention. Okay. Any other select board reports? Hearing none, okay, correspondence, anything?
Nothing.
No correspondence, okay, new business, FY '23 Records Access Officer's appointment. This is an annual appointment. There is one change to the list you have, and that is the change for the last item, which is Montechusett Vocational Technical School District. It should read Thomas Brown. He's superintendent there now. Sheila Harity did retire in the summer.
Make a motion, we approve the records access officers for the town of Barre list as noted with the annotation by Dr. Muir to put Thomas Brown, was it?
It's
No,
Thomas
it's not.
Brown
It's a
for,
different Sheila.
Thomas Brown instead of Sheila.
no,
Harity.
instead Sheila Harity, yep.
Second?
Having made a motion and have it seconded for the approval of records access officers for the town of Barre for 1923, or 2023.
Whoa.
I wasn't even around then. All in favor?
Aye.
Too much caffeine, something.
Sending it way back.
Okay. Requesting town property for a graduation party of 50 people using the town hall.
And this has, of course, I always ask, you've made sure there's no conflict.
It's strange that it's a graduation party of January 3rd.
Well,
It's probably
some
from someone's
people-
last year. People put it off the last year or two.
Yeah, or some people graduate in December from college.
Alrighty.
Yeah, it can end on a fall semester in college pretty easily.
Okay, they indicate that the only food or beverage to be served will be some desserts that they will bring. They estimate about 50 people.
I make a motion to approve the use of town property for Abby Stefano on January 3rd, starting at 6:30 PM. I assume they may want to get in and set up early, but,
Yeah. Or maybe
There's
that,
nothing else that day, so
all right.
we'll be flexible with them.
I will second.
okay, we have a motion made and seconded to approve Abby Stefano's request to use town property for a graduation party on January 3rd, 2023. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Then we have our wage authorization list.
We also have that.
Oh, we
before
have,
that.
now, I thought Greg was the DPW union contract negotiations representative.
He's the police department.
Oh, I was hoping that was really gonna be you, because that was gonna be one of us. I know that,
I mean, I guess Greg, if you want to do both.
well, no, it just wouldn't be fair to him. I mean, because it ends
Kind
up,
of a lot.
it ends up going on and on. And John, unless you wanna fight me for the honor.
If you want to, I won't.
Well, and
fight
I don't
on
think
that.
it's a thing of that anybody wants to, but I know that, you know, my schedule is sometimes a little more flexible during the day when they want to do it, so I would be with you being the alternate, John?
Sure,
Okay.
yeah.
Would you make a recommendation to appoint?
I would move to appoint, sorry, wait, what's it, DP? Sorry, I'm backed up here.
Move to appoint Selectman Marshall for DPW union negotiations with Selectman Dixon as an alternate.
No. Thank you very much. We have a motion made,
Second.
seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And so I know that Greg will be starting that sometime soon.
Yes.
And I don't know when we'll be starting DPW stuff, but I would certainly, as we work through the process, keep the rest of the, board up to speed on concerns and things that are brought to the table that would obviously be an executive session when we did updates.
Right, typically we use those, the biggest issue always comes down to wages, so that's usually what we will.
Shocking.
We'll come to the table with, but yeah, there's always a couple of executive sessions in there.
And we can discuss that too at a
Yeah.
executive session meeting beforehand if the board wants
Yeah.
to start with any changes we're looking for, if
Yeah.
we're looking for any, what those might be, because
Yeah.
whatever you bring to the table, you can't take more away from that. That's our
Right.
starting point, we have to give from
Yeah.
there.
Now,
So if there's
does
things we're
the-
looking to rescind
does
on or
this
change.
DPW union contract include water and sewer employees?
Yeah, that's the whole, so DPW is the Department of Public Works, so it includes highway, water, and sewer.
Okay. Do you think that there's any need to include someone from either the water or the sewer department when we begin to negotiate their terms and working conditions?
Like the commission, the Water and Sewer Commission?
Yeah.
I think it's something we could bring up at the next DPW
Yeah.
commission.
Meeting?
Yeah, I'm not, well, obviously I'm the least familiar with union negotiations, but,
Well, it's not that so
I
much.
don't know how they've done it before. I don't think
I
they
don't either.
have.
yeah.
I think it's
Because
always been a.
This is what we've discussed a little bit before about how, we're frustrated with
Yes.
figuring out how that commission works. Because clearly, legally, all these things, the descriptions, positions, the wage authorizations, and all this falls on the Board of Selectmen, including all the union negotiations.
Well, it seems
all
to,
fall on
but
us.
whether they appropriately do is my question.
They do. The commission is in charge of those people and the employees, but it says that it's in charge of, what they do.
And so in the event, because we are like the human resource function, so in the event that there's like a union
Grievance.
dispute, grievance, it would only come to the selectmen, it wouldn't go to the.
That's the strangest, I know you've said this before, Greg, but it is the strangest thing, this
It's a
commission.
very, well, we once again, we've discussed it unofficially altogether, and we haven't officially as a board have Jessica look into this with an attorney, and I think we should have an official comment from Labor Council as to
Yeah, because I feel
of
like.
what the interpretation is as to what the obligations and responsibilities are for each of those three boards within the commission, and sort of, is the commission overseeing water, sewer, and highway, or is the commission just there to keep each other in tabs like they were suggesting down there, let us know what's going on?
Well, my only concern is I don't want to overstep, because there are things, in terms of working conditions, that we would be negotiating that would be really better understood if they have to do with the water department by water commissioners, or if they have to do with the sewer department by the sewer commissioners, I would suspect. Now,
I think at the end of the day, what it
We should-
ultimately comes down to is it would be helpful to get input,
Yes.
but ultimately it comes down to us.
Right,
Okay.
but there's
But-
no harm in asking
The
maybe if
Labor
the
Council.
ask
Yeah.
Yeah.
the chairmans
yeah,
if they'd like to attend
Right.
those meetings,
Right.
just to be involved and see what's going on,
well, if,
or if they just want to have info, we can discuss it at our next
Okay.
meeting, next week.
sounds good. Okay, thank you very much for
Do
that.
Makes sense.
But we got to start to strategize in executive session on both of these to determine, what approach we're taking with both of these.
No, it's not the
unions.
best time to be in our seats for this part of our job, for sure. Okay,
I never worry about it, I think we all want the best for people in town.
we do.
And the people working for town, but
Yeah.
it's, when you go at it honestly with,
Yeah.
you're trying to be responsible for the town's finances and give the guys the best you can.
Absolutely.
With the caveat that we're here to represent the town and everyone's money.
Yeah.
It's not hard, you just be honest about where you sit and.
Well, it's not hard, but sometimes it's the information that we need to share is hard to hear,
Well,
and that's,
it is,
and
but
that's
it's-
difficult.
If
So-
if they know you're coming from a place of honesty, they don't feel like you're duping them some way, I think it's received better. And
Well,
I like to
oh.
believe we have good relationships with the employees as far as that goes, so.
I would suspect that's our hope. Anyway, moving on to wage authorizations, we need a vote to and the documents are all here as listed.
I would make a motion that we authorize Jacob Puchalski.
Puchalski.
It looks like he's changing positions from a truck driver laborer, step one, to an assistant chief water operator,
Yeah.
PW3, with a proposed salary of $25.49 an hour.
Second?
We have a motion made and seconded to approve Jacob Puchalski as assistant chief operator. Those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
We have,
Now, this is one of those things we can make sure and double check with the water people at our next meeting, as to requirements, what he has for qualifications and timeline to get to those qualifications, because we have to start making note. In the past, we've been lax in some of these, and people have gotten into these positions without the right certifications and been there for too long a period of time, which we can have, so we'll have to check out the standards.
Jessica, would you be so kind as to forward to Shannon concerns? I mean, things that we would like to have on the agenda for DPW meeting.
Okay.
One would be contract negotiations for DPW.
Okay.
And then the other one would be a review
Qualifications.
of qualifications for Jacob Puchalski, who was recently, or they were recently appointed to be
The worst scenario is if he has education, classes, schooling, certifications he has to get, and we don't send him to it,
That's
that's
our
shame
fault.
on us.
Absolutely.
And, you know, you can't hold his feet to the fire and say, you had 6 months to do this, but we didn't make the training available to
Yeah.
you.
Right.
So, you know, it's not just to say he's got to get it done. I'm talking about, we
I
got to
agree.
make sure it's available to him, whatever he needs, and I assume we're sending him to be trained, because I don't think it's just your average job to be assistant chief water operator. There must be
Mhm.
credentials and certifications that he needs to achieve.
And
to
then
make sure he
the
can-
next 1, 2, 3 candidates that are included here are all from the fire department, recommended by Chief Rogowski. They seem to be just step modifications, and they're people that have worked with us for numbers of years.
They're all the part-time.
Yeah, part-time, on call.
I move to approve the wage authorization for Zack Glidden, from step 2 to step 3 of his current position.
Second? Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Looks like we
Abstain.
will-
I move to approve the wage authorization for Scott Fritcher, from step 2 to step 3 of his current position.
Second? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Staying?
I move,
Dana Stoddard?
move the wage authorization for Dana Stoddard from step 2 to step 3 of current position.
Second? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Staying?
This one.
Okay, we still
One
have,
more. Gene.
Yep.
yeah, this is Dean.
Is this a step
Oh,
change
he's
as
down,
well?
down in the boat, okay.
Looks like a new on-call.
Yeah.
firefighter.
You on call, okay.
Dean Babineau.
I'd move to approve the wage authorization for Dean Babineau as a FD3 step 4
I will second that.
on call.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Staying. I'm curious why they started at step 4 if they're new to the town. They only start at step 1s and you're,
Typically, I had the pleasure of meeting Dean the other day, and he's a seasoned firefighter, and he also works at the academy, I believe, so.
And he's an
he-
EMT too, right?
he's
well, that's
also
what
an
gets
EMT.
his FD 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
4, 5, those
Right.
those
Yeah,
initial
so he's a
ratings.
FD3 because he's also an EMT, but the step that he was brought in at, the chief just may have brought him in at a higher step due to his previous experience in Charlton and with the fire academy.
Right, so there's no policy that says somebody has to start at step 0 or 1.
Right.
They can,
Right.
okay.
A
I'm
lot
just-
of
I'm
times.
Just curious.
A lot of times when we hire new staff, we will kind of negotiate based off of if somebody comes in with a lot more experience than.
So it gets you a better quality candidate that way, yeah.
Yep, yeah, sometimes.
It makes sense to me, it just,
Yep,
kind of want to call it out publicly, and people understand, say, you know, why are we a 4 instead of, but
right,
there's little wiggle room when we have the wages and the scales, everything written out for us when you're offering someone a job. But if you're trying to get somebody in and they have some experience, that's the steps of how you can do that and work it up,
yes.
staying within the
Correct.
system. That makes perfect sense.
And the last wage authorization we have tonight
Is
is
this a new hire?
so this is actually a promotion from part-time to
Okay.
full-time.
Okay, we have a
Okay.
full-time position open.
We will, starting January 1st, so this will
Gotcha.
not go into effect until January 1st.
Okay.
But they just, they like to get it off their plate, so.
Well, important, yeah.
I move to approve the wage authorization for Dylan Force for a full-time police officer position.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded on Dylan Force to come from a full-time, to a full-time police officer position. Are those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We now have some policy updates for discussion.
It's
The-
similar to last I believe it was the last meeting, the police chief had presented a couple of policy updates. He's been going through the policies as he's been working towards accreditation for the department. And so a lot of these policies have to fall in, or I should say, every policy that the police department has to fall within the framework of the accreditation. And so that's just what the police chief is doing here, is just making some slight adjustments to existing policies to fall into line with what the accredited police departments are expected to have. So a lot of times he works off of existing policies in other communities. And I believe we've been paired up with the town of Belchertown as our kind of like sister organization. So everything that they do, the chief reviews and sees how their practices best fit within our organization, and go from there as far as accreditation goes.
Having read the policies previous, I'm fine with what is put into the wearing of seat belts. I mean, it's pretty much standard practice in Massachusetts.
Right, some of these things, like there's a cell phone policy.
Yeah.
A lot of these things are just common sense, but
So a few things are specified on the agenda: safety belt and school resource officer. Are those just items that changed in here from the last one?
those are the only two policies that have been included.
At this time.
At this time.
I think we'll see more over
Yep.
the
I've-
certification process.
Yeah,
Or
so
accreditation process.
as he works through them, I think at the last meeting, we had one or two on the agenda.
Yeah.
And so there will be, as he updates them, he sends them my way, and it's a part of our policy within the town that the selectmen have the opportunity to review the policies, and, you know, if the selectmen have any comments on them, they can make comments and try and work with the police chief to see maybe a different outcome, but.
No, these are interdepartmental policies, so they don't require us to move on them. These are just here to notify us?
Yeah, well, so.
Or do we need
correct,
to
so
move
you
on him
don't-
since he's a strong chief, so it's different than a strong fire chief?
So since he's a strong chief, it doesn't require, the selectmen do not have to formally adopt these policies, but part of our bylaws say that you have to have the opportunity to review them
Okay.
and make comments if you have any comments, but
Okay.
that's kind of the separation of power there.
Yeah, well, I have no comments on the first policy.
Nor do I.
I don't have any comments either.
Okay, number 2 is the school resource officer. I do have a couple things
Sure.
that I think just need to be clarified. This is the purpose of this directive is to provide guidelines regarding the school resource officer's role and responsibilities. Fine. The school resource officer program at Barre Public Schools. It should say public schools located in Barre, because all of these are district schools.
Right.
But you don't want them having responsibilities, for example, over in Hardwick. So this means the public schools located in Barre, because the regional school is a district school. It's not,
Correct.
and the Barre Elementary School technically is a district school, but what the SRO is responsible for are the public schools located in the town of Barre.
Yes.
And then that would go, just to change the policy of the Barre Police Department is to maintain an SOR program in public schools located in Barre.
Okay. So it says
Okay.
Barre Public Schools.
Yeah,
now?
it says
Okay.
Barre,
Yeah.
yeah.
Flip that
Just-
on those
just
That's
for
a good
cl-
clarification.
Just for clarification, I know what he means,
Yes.
and I've certainly been through a policy like this a gazillion times, and I'm very happy with it. I like the way in which they discuss arrests, investigations, school discipline versus the SRO, information
minors in the
sharing.
works.
Yeah, and the FERPA requirements of, Family Education, Act, where you can't share confidential information, just like the teachers can't share it. So, I mean, they covered the waterfront, there's no question about it. These are common, they're around
Yep.
everywhere, and so I have no other changes other than to ensure that these are not people who are responsible for schools outside of Barre, but they will deal with students who are attending schools in Barre.
Right. Okay. good clarification. I will pass that message along.
And if he wants to chat with me about what I mean, I think he knows. Yeah.
He watches the meetings anyways.
It's
He'll
just
give you
those
a
two
call.
places that appears.
Yes, that's the only two places that I noted it.
I'd make a motion that we let the chief know we approve of his two policies, noting the changes from Selectman Marshall about the wording.
Yeah.
As the first page, where it refers to Barre Public Schools, to be changed to public schools within Barre.
Located in Barre.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to demonstrate our approval of the policies with
Recommended
slight
changes.
modifications. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Looks like a vote. Okay. And thank the chief for, moving through the accreditation process. It is tedious, it is time-consuming, and in the end, it'll cost us more money.
Right.
I know.
This is why Groton keeps me around.
Yes.
I just installed the door for
Can
them.
you believe this?
Oh, yeah, that's why they had me do it. Typically, the cost of the door, you match it for the installation price. I did their door for probably about, this is remove and replace and modify stuff in the process. It was probably about $1,400 total.
So do
Are you-
you give us a quote? Are you
I
offering?
can't. I'm just saying. I can't.
As long as you,
I
as long
can't.
as you,
It's like I can't.
no,
but-
as long as you file
but the-
disclosure.
As long as
should
you
be
file
okay.
the
But
disclosure,
that's,
you can.
but that's, well, then now I'm working, I already have a job, I have a special municipal employee as a firefighter, this is yet another one. It's just
Okay.
gray, gray area, but it's,
Yeah,
but
that's pushing the gray area a little
it
bit.
is pushing it, but that's, no, that's not, unfortunately, that's not an unusual,
I
atypical
know,
price.
it's just
That-
such a
that is-
huge price for a door.
The doors, the amount for the doors, when I was doing their Prescott building over, the doors were running, to buy them, $5,000 a door, and then the company,
$6,800.
and the company installed them though, but those were interior doors.
Oh, yeah, well,
So, and I was doing the closers on the doors, the electrician was wiring, and I was attaching the magnetic door release and the automatic closers, but they were still for interior, very low-quality doors were $5,000
oh, they're
a whack.
ridiculous, I know.
They were.
Well, a couple of years ago, when I had first started here, the select board had already approved a quote from Worcester Door in Worcester. But no matter how long I pursued them for the following year, they would not get back to me. On actually, and the quote was for, I
Well-
think, $6,000, $7,000.
This, how big is this door? This is.
Well, it's one right here,
Well,
out
right
here.
out there, you walk by it all the time.
Yeah, yeah,
So
elevator door.
it's 3 by 7, so I just did a 7.0, which is 84 inches by 42, which is 3.6. I believe the door only costs about $2,500. That was out of Doors Unlimited in Leominster. The door itself was half this price, so.
Oh,
I
well,
could-
so we've
I
been
could-
try to get other people.
You talked to Ken, who's who you'd asked for, that's.
Let's try it.
I could give him a call if you'd like, and,
Yeah,
I
if
could,
you
I could,
have-
I
if
could
you have
take
better
this, I
luck.
could drop this, well.
Would you mind?
No, I'll go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll go out that way, I'll stop in tomorrow and talk to him, I'll drop this.
How about subsequent to your findings? Obviously, if you find that it ends up needing to be what has been presented here, should we approve it before that? Or, we're not gonna probably do it till the spring?
Or it could be done anytime.
Okay.
I've still got one to do, they've got a double door in the library.
Okay.
Now, the double door, I think, costs them about, my guess is between 10 and 20,000 to buy it.
10 and what?
10 and
20.
20 to buy it. My installation is gonna be 2.
You're working too cheap.
I'm at a fixed rate with the town. I'm an approved vendor at a fixed rate, so.
Mm-hmm.
But it's nice, sometimes the work comes in, you go get a half a day's work where you don't have to go scrounging for it or bidding for it.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
know, and they pay, so.
Well,
it's-
so shall we wait till our next meeting then, if you're gonna do a little more
Yes,
investigation on this?
I'll make a point to stop in and call them tomorrow.
Okay,
And, yeah, let's table it for now.
and then text him tomorrow and say, Greg, don't forget Ken, and then.
Yeah, we will.
Because if I would, I would forget it.
Because
but-
before we know it, that price is gonna change too.
Yeah.
Because there's a deadline on there as well.
But I know this is the company that the high school
That's
deals
what the
with.
school
Oh,
deals
for
with.
Yeah,
the,
so.
And the only ones that returned our calls.
I would just ask you also, Greg, since this is sort of your bailiwick, Do you know that I wonder what that drainage is like, because is it back all up to that door and that's why it's all rusted like that?
I don't know, I've never looked at it in the
Well,
rain.
just look at it.
But,
That's
you know,
true.
it's old, depending,
Remember
depending the
it
finish
was
on it.
clogged,
Over
the
the-
gutter was clogged.
Right.
It was leaking into it. Since they cleaned it out, it's not.
Okay, it's not bad.
Right, we hauled the
Okay.
fire department up here to clean it out one day. I said,
Right.
why don't you
Okay.
call, because I was watching it run over the gutter and come down on the
Okay.
roof.
And it was
Over
just
there, it was going
pouring
around.
in the water.
Yeah, yeah.
The biggest differences here from what I just put in is that it's going to have the electric strike in the door. And, see, they don't break down the prices, so
Yeah.
I don't know what that strike
Yeah.
will cost.
Okay,
So they may have to look at it. I can probably give them this and they can quote.
okay.
And bearing in mind, within commercial doors, there's different grades of doors. But there's another company I called, I got the better grade for Groton, but a different company, the better grade was $2,000 more.
Yeah,
And the difference is when you have a crash bar
yep,
to leave the door. If it's an emergency exit, which is used once in a blue moon, you have a lower quality door, it's a thinner metal. But where it's a high-use door, like the one that I installed is used, 40 times a day,
Oh.
they have a reinforced area within the door. So although it's like a hollow core doors in your house,
yeah,
but there's more metal reinforcement behind the crash bar.
yeah.
And then the latch assembly is made for higher use. This is, maybe they've used a higher use to drive the price up, but
I don't know.
they'll know when they look at this what the numbers are, and if they can beat
So-
it and see what they do and install, they have to
We're
come
gonna
and
table
look
it
at
for,
That'd be great.
for
Yeah,
further
This
information?
quote is good till 2 days after our next meeting, so I just
Yes.
want to make sure we bring it up.
Yeah,
it. Okay. I'll let them know if he wants to take a shot at it. They can give me some prices, and we've got a couple of weeks that we have to answer in this one. Let me keep that
They
separate.
have to do the whole frame and everything too. You looked at that, right?
well, they all come that way, pretty
Yeah,
much.
they're set up that way. There's two different
It's
frames.
all metal, that's why it's rust.
Right, there's one frame that comes as sort of a C-channel. So you put your top section in, then there's two slots where your side channel wraps around each side, and then screws go in inside out in the bottom to hold it, and then there's a foot inside that adjusts to center it in the frame, so you get it squared and centered. The other way comes down, it would just slide inside, so the whole door frame is preset like this.
Yeah.
And it slides inside a surface, it might be brick or wood, then it's just sealed with caulking, so those are meant to fit it more exact to the hole. I'm suspecting that's what's down there, is a welded frame, not a...
Yes, for sure, because you go out there, you see, it's just all
So
rusted.
what that means is there'll be some sort of large bolts into lead anchors that tie it in each side, probably 2 or 3 in each side. They'll literally unscrew it and the whole thing slides out. There's gonna be some wiring in there for the electric door strike in the jamb that will just be coming down the wall. They'll have to disconnect that and transfer that to the new one, which is just 2 wire nuts. Then the new door goes in similar, they probably use new anchors and not screw around with the old ones. You drill it, put the anchors in and bolt it in. It's not overly difficult, but they're gonna be here a day and you're gonna shake your head because they're gonna be in and out of here in less than a day, and they're gonna, oh yeah.
That quick?
They might bring 2 guys to make it look good, but this is just, that's the industry. Commercial doors are expensive, and that's,
Okay, we have a list of
Yeah.
annual license
that's what I'll be doing at
renewals.
the library. It's a double door in the brick. So it's got a glass light over the top of the solid frame that goes on top of it, but it all goes into the brick, and you screw in, and the glass will drop in with rubber seals after the fact, and they're not hard. But-
Okay, moving on to annual license renewals, we need a vote on that. We have a listing for you here. I have a couple questions on the listing. I know that there was a change of ownership, I think, with Harding Allen Estate. I'm assuming they kept the same name?
They did.
Okay.
So the business names, or the names that you see on that list, are not their doing business as names all of the time.
Okay.
So, but they still
Those-
kept Harding Allen as their operating
Okay.
So I put
name
that
as
as-
well.
So is the Barre Mill still operating their bar, and they've
No.
just closed the restaurant? They closed all
No.
facilities, so we're gonna
The
strike that
High
off the
Tides
list?
is out of business, and so is the Barry Mill Restaurant out of
But
business.
But they can still carry the license because it is a good.
So they've
You're
asked,
selling.
they've asked for the license and they're paying for it?
Yep, so as long
Okay.
as they submit the application or the renewal paperwork and pay,
Okay.
they're allowed to carry the
It makes it easier to
license.
sell the business if
So-
it has an
yeah.
active
So,
license. they
so
can transfer.
same thing for High Tides Restaurant?
High Tides, I think, is switching ownership though. It's of who came in.
Still no, they've been closed down for about a year.
Change of manager, they're still carrying license, but then they'll do change of manager.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we've talked to the new business owner.
Okay,
Yeah,
and so the same thing, so the alcohol renewal, the entertainment and amusement, still, they'll get that license, and they'll get the common vitriol's license, even though, okay, so I understand now, thank you.
Okay. So we have 2 pages. I'm going to make a motion to approve all of these license renewals, which include motor vehicle license renewal for Class 2, in-holder common victualer's license, in-holder and common, also the entertainment and amusement license, and alcohol license renewal, as they are listed on these 2 pages.
Second?
The motion has been made and seconded to approve the annual licenses presented, and liquor license, the entertainment and amusement licenses, the common vitriol license, and motor vehicle Class 2. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
John, you second?
Okay.
Now, is that all of them? We still have more to trickle in?
No, well,
No,
Just a few
I mean,
common vics to trickle in now.
as far as liquor
Right.
licenses go, we're all set, but there's a couple, and for the most part, if they obviously, if they have a liquor license, they have a common vic and/or entertainment, so they typically hand all of that in at the same time, but there's a couple of businesses who don't have a liquor license that might still be outstanding with their common vic. And is there anything left for motor vehicle? I don't, just maybe just one or two. Asa? Did
No,
he?
Ace is in there.
Oh, okay.
2.
Two, okay. So, yeah, there's a couple outstanding that'll trickle in before the end of the year, but the liquor license is the big one. That is due into our office by November 30th. So those ones are all set, and there's just maybe a couple stragglers after.
Oh, good.
and so I think that brings us to older business, an issue that was brought up, I think, by Greg, and also there were some questions from John. And so I know that, John, you have spent a little time moving through some of the, Division of Local Services documents and so forth regarding this kind of,
Yeah,
situation. So why don't we go with you?
Sure. Yeah, the original topic that was brought up was delaying, delaying until, or deferral, until a property is sold or the person passes. So that's the first one here. So all of these are based on different tax exemption clauses in the Mass General Law. So these are the ones that we're essentially, the state allows us to use. I believe any of these would go to a vote at town meeting
Okay.
to be enacted. So the one that allows for property tax deferrals is Clause 41A. So there's some information on it here. It's, essentially it gets filed with the state. The state has their own eligibility requirements, and, you must own your own home, you must be over 65, different income limits.
Yeah.
Like,
So it's not just for,
$20,000.
you have to have lived there for so long, I believe, too, in
Yeah,
all
yeah.
of these.
and there is an income limit. I know that was a big topic
Yeah.
last time it came up.
Which sadly is like $20,000.
is.
It hasn't been updated,
Okay.
which is crazy, because $20,000 isn't going to go very far from anyone nowadays.
Yeah.
But it's something, and there are people who would still benefit. That's why I brought it up.
Yeah, yeah, and this is what the state would allow us to do essentially as a town.
Right, and as I said before, I don't think we're talking about, 100 people jumping on this and signing up, and I don't think, we're not talking about deferring all their tax payments. We're talking about, in this case, some of the tax payments, in other cases, freezing the rate, so the increased rates accrue instead of getting billed. So it's not like we're suddenly gonna come up $100,000 short on our revenues. It might hit our, I would guess, without looking, I would guess we might see like a $10,000 hit on the revenues overall, that we recover later.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna
It
be.
could be way later, but,
It could be way later. But once again, it's the change in revenue is the more important thing, not to let
Oh,
their
I
rates
agree.
creep up. So, the revenues might grow a little slower in some places, but when we set the tax rate, we can take that into account. And the tax rate might move by a tenth of a point, Nothing outrageous.
I think that,
But the
obviously.
town would vote for it.
Yeah,
not
obviously,
us.
these are things that are already allowable under
Yes.
state statute. What I would preferred that we do as we do this investigation is to authorize our treasurer to seek information from what towns do this in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and what has their history been and how have they impacted their tax.
Certainly.
One person was, I'm gonna get, it's either Freeport or Freetown, Mass. They've been using it. I talked with one person there at an MMA event who is using it. I'm sure there's others.
Oh, I'm
I know I
sure.
sent Jessica basically a breakdown of a different town. I can't remember offhand which one uses that. So there are examples of using it. But that is the tax deferral one. I also included in here different tax exemptions that are available as options. One packet is for options for seniors, one is options for veterans that the town could put forward. This one has different requirements for a $500 discount or different alternatives for 5%. So there are honestly a lot of different options, a lot of different ways that exemptions could be given to some of the people in need. So I think all of these are, different options that the town could look at. But again, might be good to get more input with our tax collector.
Right, and I can check with our assessor too. Ooh, is that a bee or something?
It's a big fly.
Okay.
Oh, better that than a bee.
Came out of
Not
nowhere.
many bees on
One of the lights had finally heated up enough.
sometimes, but that was.
I can check with our assessors to see what, and the tax collector to see what kind of exemptions and abatements we already have, because I do know that,
If any.
yeah, I do know, I want to say we do have some.
I believe there is there might be a default one, and then these are options to either enhance or adapt that to something that better suits our
Okay.
community.
Sure.
So you're gonna follow up on this, Jessica, and certainly engage with
Yes.
Jake,
Yes.
our new treasurer, because obviously he will have some background in this and can collect the kind of data we would need in order to consider moving forward with one or more of these options.
Yes.
And once again, this one saying, tax exemptions would be, for basically forgiving a portion of the taxes to the seniors.
Whereas deferrals are just putting it off.
Right, so what I was proposing, not that I'm saying we shouldn't give people something, but it's not gonna, the idea is to give the seniors help, not to give, their estate help. So that's why I talked about the deferrals instead, because if somebody is having trouble paying, we can get them the deferred money so they can still keep their home. And then, like anyone else in town, they pay their
Well,
share.
it'll be
when it's
hard
due later.
for anybody who owns a home to qualify, quite frankly, $20,000.
Yes and no. I think you're gonna have, especially where you have older couples that live in these homes, especially when one spouse has passed away.
Yeah.
Then you're down to either no income with just, not,
Social
I don't
Security.
think your Social Security is counting as income here. I think they mean earned income, I believe.
No, I would suspect it would,
But even still, Social Security for people back then is not a tremendous amount of
no,
money.
true.
Nowadays, people might get more out of Social Security than $20,000 in a year or out of retirement, but people that are that age group now, I would doubt they're getting any place close to that for Social Security money. So it could make a very big difference to some people. You could have couples where one worked, one never worked. So you still only have a small retirement income coming in.
One
And
thing.
if they've had the house for a long time, they're not paying a mortgage, you're just paying their taxes. Since I've been in town, my taxes have been more than doubled in my home since I've been here. They're always gonna go up, they're not gonna go down.
No, they certainly aren't.
But to prevent it from going up
Well,
for
I
some people is
I think
my
it
thought.
gives us some good information to
Yep.
have Jake start and to be prepared after the first of the year to sit down with us. And, I know he's been busy just getting caught up, so,
Yes.
and maybe toward the end of the month of January if possible.
Yes.
Now, obviously, we are very eager to do this Vadar switch. When is that going to happen, do you think? Because that will take Jake's time as well.
Right. Well, Jake right now is on some bereavement leave, and
Okay.
so Jean will be in tomorrow, and I'm gonna reconnect with her to see when we're gonna get the books closed,
Yeah.
and then once that happens, it shouldn't be, I would expect within a month or two to get over to Vadar, at least to make meaningful progress to get over to Vadar.
Well, I mean, we've got to make meaningful progress. Our hope was to do it last July, and now the hope was to do it, on January 1. That's not going to happen. I mean, I know what it's like in the next couple of weeks. Things slow
Right.
down in work environments.
And then well, at least for our environment with the budget starting.
Oh, I know, it gets
2
very
weeks
busy.
after the new year, at least
Mhm.
my life gets
Busier.
very busy.
Right, people are focusing more towards the holidays, and there's
Yeah.
a lot of other things going on
Yeah.
than worrying about switching
Vadar.
software systems, but
But I'm just worried about.
we've got to follow through and get it done. We've got to do it before the fiscal year is over this year.
We got to.
And, John, I really appreciate all the work on this, that's fantastic. And I like that we maybe talk about this at least once a month,
Yeah.
and try to make a point to have something to present to the town at
And I think
ATM
the
this year.
assessors should be involved, as
Oh,
well as
absolutely.
Yes,
the
yeah, for
treasurer.
sure.
And,
So
but
that
I want to
will
make
give
sure
us
we're
some-
ready in time, that if we're going to present
Yeah.
something at town meeting, that we have it ready, realistically by April.
Yeah.
So we can make sure it's out there and people can look at it before town meeting, because we're going to advertise 30 days this year, remember?
Yeah.
Yes.
As we promised.
And one thing that I would like to make sure goes on the next agenda for December is to ensure that we have a conversation about special town meeting and about because without closing those books, we can't certify free cash.
Mhm.
And if we can't certify free cash, we know that there are bills we are going to need to pay to make adjustments in.
This is why we talked about special
Jesus.
town a while ago. I said, well, let's wait till the money's cleared before we try to pick a date.
Yeah,
'cause
well,
it's-
but I mean, that's
it's the
closing the
key.
books. That's
has to be
gotta
done
happen.
first,
I
yeah.
mean, I hate to put pressure on, but gee, it's 6 months in now. Almost 6 months in, so I'm hoping we can get that done. They promised me October 30, then they promised me November 30th, and now they're promising me end of the year, and I'm kind of
What's the
getting.
holdup?
So the initial issue was there was the debt schedule that hadn't been completed before we had the new treasurer take over. So it was, according to the accountant and the new treasurer, trying to coordinate with our, previous temporary individual to try and get that finished, because she had all of the data in there. So it would make the most sense to continue with her name on it. And so once that was done, now it goes back to the accountant to do all of the balancing,
Which should not take forever.
considering all of the work that our interim tax collector did
I
while she
know.
was here. I know that she did her due diligence, and she was here for a lot of hours, putting in the work to get that done on her end, so.
Well, I know, I'm sorry to hear about the bereavement leave from Jake, and our sincerest, sympathies for that. But hopefully, when he gets back intact, we can have at least a quick meeting with him and how he sees.
Yep.
And,
I know, I was
because-
gonna go talk to him today, and then I forgot he was on bereavement.
Well, my only concern is that if we need to do a special town meeting,
Yes.
and if we need to do a special town meeting, we need to have those books closed.
Yes,
And because we need to get, because once all this stuff goes to the Department of Local Services, Department of Revenue, it is weeks sometimes before they will certify a
Mhm.
number.
If it goes that quickly.
Yeah, so we had hoped to do something late January, but I think we're talking about St. Patrick's Day if we're lucky. Would you agree?
Well, this is where we promised the town, we give them 30 days in annual town, but we
Yeah.
don't have to on this, because
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
we said and this is a case where we can't. If
Yeah.
We're not gonna have a 30-day open warrant
Oh,
for
I know
this.
that.
It's gonna
Well,
be.
there's probably not gonna be that many things on it. It's not like the town.
It's gonna
the
be,
annual.
it's gonna be housekeeping business,
Yeah.
it's gonna be short and sweet, and it's gonna be open and closed in a
Yeah.
matter of a couple of days.
Yeah,
yes.
It's, if that.
yeah.
But-
So on our next agenda, if you could talk with the accountant, get some real specifics for us, and so then we begin to lay out, this is when it's gonna go to the Department of Revenue, because we can oftentimes work with Ms. Wagner and get her to,
Yeah.
she's.
Well,
at
you
the
don't want it to
Department of
raise
Revenue.
to the level of Miss Wagner.
Oh, yeah, but Ms. Wagner.
But she has the
is-
final.
Yeah, but Ms. Wagner knows who we are, not in a good way.
Well, in a good way and not in a good way.
Well, yeah. but-
She worked with the town for probably 15, 20 years
Yeah.
as was our account representative.
Yeah.
And now she's the Bureau of Accounts Manager, and
Yeah,
she
so-
has a much,
More, yeah.
so
But
it's
you-
like, kind of like, you don't want to end up in the principal's office.
You don't want to end
Deb-
up with
Deb
Ms. Wagner
Wagner.
not liking it.
My first time in office here, when we get the letter from the state, I'm the only one that reached out, because please call. I'm like, why aren't you guys calling about this? And I don't understand why nobody wanted to take action on it. And that's the way, I talked to them, and they agreed to come out back then and talk to our treasurer and accountant and figure out what was going on and make suggestions. And back in the day, Charlie wanted to get me in hot water for that, for talking to them. It's like, I just returned a phone call they asked
No,
me to make.
it's important, and obviously, she's been in touch with us. She's very aware of where we're at, Wagner, and we're hopeful that, with Jean's help
Mhm.
and, consistent diligence, we gotta get this done. I mean, I feel badly that it's all on her shoulders right now, but it is what it is. So, that being said,
This is why she did get hours for help.
Mhm.
Ultimately, that's
Yep.
one of the changes we did, and we've increased those hours as we
Yep.
go on, and that's why.
Yep.
And hopefully this will all.
well, it's
settle
gonna,
out.
I mean, it's not hopeful, it is gonna happen. It has to
But I'm saying
happen.
hopefully this year, a lot of it settles out.
Yes.
We get switched to Vadar,
Yeah.
and things really
Well, I think,
step up.
and with the new treasurer in
time-wise.
place, who I think is gonna give us some longevity, that will be good.
Yes, very important.
Yeah. Okay, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
I would move to adjourn.
Second?
We have a motion to adjourn and seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all.
All right.
See you on is it the 19th, right?
The 19th.
Oh, I must need to sign some wage authorizations. I'll be happy
Call
to
this
do
guy
that.
tomorrow.